When an INFJ reaches a point of emotional overload, something inside them shifts. Their mind, which is normally full of thoughts, insights, and observations, begins to shut down. This shutdown is not dramatic from the outside. Most people around them will not even notice it at first. But inside, the INFJ feels a sudden change. The mental clarity they usually depend on fades, and their emotional world becomes too heavy to carry. Their mind reacts by shutting everything down to protect itself. INFJs are sensitive to their surroundings. They absorb emotions, notice tension, and sense small details that others overlook. This ability makes them insightful, but it also makes them vulnerable to burnout. When too much pressure, conflict, or emotional imbalance builds up, the INFJ cannot keep processing everything. Their mind reaches a point where it needs silence more than anything else. It disconnects from the noise so they can regain stability. This shutdown does not mean they are weak. It does not mean they are giving up. It is a natural reaction to being overwhelmed for too long. The INFJ mind handles many layers of thinking and feeling at once, and when those layers become too heavy, the shutdown becomes a defense system. It helps them avoid emotional damage, confusion, or mental exhaustion. Many INFJs do not talk about this experience. They do not want to worry others, and they rarely feel understood when they try to explain it. Instead, they quietly retreat into themselves. Their behavior changes, their energy shifts, and their communication becomes limited. People around them may notice the distance, but misinterpret it as coldness or disinterest. In reality, the INFJ is trying to stay grounded during a moment when their internal world feels overwhelming. This video explains what happens inside the INFJ mind during a shutdown. Each part shows a different change they experience and why these changes help them recover. For anyone who is an INFJ, these moments can feel confusing or isolating. For anyone who knows an INFJ, understanding these signs can prevent misunderstanding and deepen connection. The shutdown is not the end of their emotional strength. It is the pause their mind needs to rebuild that strength. Thing number 1, their thoughts become overwhelmingly quiet. One of the first signs of an INFJ shutdown is the sudden silence inside their mind. Normally, the INFJ has a very active inner world. They reflect, predict, analyze, and observe. They think about their future, their relationships, and the emotions of the people around them. This constant flow of thoughts feels natural to them. But when they reach emotional overload, the mind goes still. The quiet is not peaceful. It feels like something has shut off. Instead of clear ideas or intuitive insights, they feel a fog. They cannot think deeply. They cannot make sense of their feelings. They cannot process the things that usually come easily. This stillness inside is a sign that their mind is turning off extra functions to protect itself from further stress. The INFJ might notice this shift at random moments. They may be in the middle of a conversation, a task, or a personal challenge when suddenly their mind stops responding. Ideas that used to flow without effort now feel blocked. The INFJ may try to think, but nothing useful comes. They feel disconnected from their own intuition and clarity. This silence can make them feel lost. INFJs rely heavily on their inner thoughts to guide them. When that guidance goes quiet, they feel unsure of themselves. They may begin to doubt their choices or feel confused about their direction. The shutdown removes the mental tools they usually depend on. The quiet also shows up in their reactions. They may become slower to respond or choose not to respond at all. They avoid giving opinions or advice because their mind feels empty. They might pause more during conversations, speak less, or avoid thinking about anything emotional or complex. This is not disinterest. It is a sign that their inner system is offline. This quiet mind also pushes them into solitude. They cannot handle more input because they cannot process what they already have. The silence inside demands silence outside. They need space where no one expects answers, explanations, or emotional energy. While uncomfortable, this quietness is part of the INFJ's recovery process. Their mind is trying to stop all extra activity so it can heal. Once the overload fades, the clarity slowly returns. But during shutdown, the silence is one of the clearest signs that the INFJ has reached their limit. Thing number 2. They pull away from everyone without warning. Another major sign of an INFJ shutdown is sudden withdrawal. The INFJ begins pulling away from everyone, even from people they love and trust. This change can happen overnight. One day, they are warm, present, and involved. The next day, they are distant, quiet, and almost impossible to reach emotionally. This shift often confuses the people around them, but for the INFJ, it is a necessary step toward protecting themselves. INFJs pull away because being around others requires emotional energy. They listen deeply, care sincerely, and notice emotional signals constantly. When they are overwhelmed, they cannot continue doing this. Their mind needs relief from the emotional input they usually absorb. They retreat to reduce noise, pressure, and expectations. This withdrawal is not rejection. They are not angry, and they are not trying to punish anyone. They simply cannot continue giving when they have nothing left inside. Their internal voice tells them they need to disappear for a while so they can breathe and reset. They often do this quietly because explaining the shutdown feels too difficult or too personal. They hope people will understand without needing details. During these moments, the INFJ may avoid messages, calls, or invitations. They may cancel plans or fade into silence. Even small interactions can feel overwhelming because their mind is not ready to engage. They may hide in their room, go on long walks alone, or spend time in activities that do not require emotion or thought. This withdrawal also protects them from absorbing more emotions. When they are overwhelmed, their sensitivity increases. Every mood, tone, or conflict feels heavier than normal. By pulling away, they shield themselves from taking on additional emotional weight that would push them further into overload. The INFJ may feel guilty about pulling away, but their need for space is stronger than their guilt. They know that staying around people while shutting down leads to misunderstandings or emotional frustration. Isolation becomes the only safe option. It is the space where their mind can breathe without pressure. This withdrawal lasts until the INFJ feels stable again. It may take hours, days, or longer, depending on how much strain they were carrying. When they finally return, they often do so quietly, hoping no one interprets their absence as a lack of love or care. Withdrawal is not the INFJ turning cold. It is the INFJ trying not to break. Their distance is a sign that their inner world has been pushed too far, and solitude is the only way to rebuild it. Thing number 3. Their emotions go numb. When the INFJ mind shuts down, one of the strongest changes happens in their emotional world. Normally, INFJs feel emotions with depth. They can sense subtle shifts inside themselves and inside others. They understand feelings that many people cannot put into words. But during a shutdown, that emotional sensitivity disappears. The emotions that were once loud and heavy become muted, distant, or completely shut off. This numbness is not a choice. It is a protective response. Their mind becomes overwhelmed by too much emotional input, and shutting off their feelings becomes a way to prevent emotional overload. Instead of feeling everything at once, they feel almost nothing. This shift creates a sense of emptiness that can be confusing even for the INFJ. They know they should care. They know they should feel something, but they cannot access their emotions in the way they normally do. During numbness, the INFJ often feels disconnected from the world. Things that usually matter to them lose their emotional meaning. They may feel detached from their own goals, their relationships, or their routines. They do not lose love for the people in their life, but they temporarily lose the emotional energy to express it. This can make them seem distant or uninterested, but on the inside, they are simply trying to protect themselves from feeling too much. The numbness can also affect how they respond to problems. Instead of reacting with their usual empathy and insight, they may feel blank. They might not cry when they normally would. They might not get angry when they normally would. They might not react at all. This lack of emotional response can make them wonder what is wrong with them. They feel disconnected from their true self. Another part of this numbness is the loss of emotional processing. INFJs normally sort through their feelings carefully, understanding the reasons behind them and learning from each experience. During shutdown, this ability disappears. They cannot understand their own feelings because the emotions are not fully accessible. Everything becomes foggy. Even positive emotions become muted. Joy feels distant. Excitement feels flat. Appreciation feels dull. This can be confusing to the people around them, who may expect the INFJ to respond with their usual warmth. The INFJ, however, cannot bring out those emotions until their mind resets. This emotional numbness does not last forever. It is a temporary phase that gives the INFJ's mind the chance to rest. When they slowly regain their emotional energy, their feelings return with clarity. They begin to recognize themselves again. But during shutdown, numbness is a natural part of the protection process. It helps them survive emotional overload without breaking. Thing number 4, they lose interest in conversations and social noise. Another major change during an INFJ shutdown is their sudden loss of interest in conversations, social interaction, and any kind of emotional noise. Social settings that once felt manageable or even enjoyable become overwhelming. Talking feels like a chore. Listening feels draining. Even simple interactions require more energy than they can give. This withdrawal from conversation is not rudeness, it is exhaustion. The INFJ normally listens deeply, responds thoughtfully, and pays attention to the emotional tone of every interaction. But when their mind shuts down, they no longer have the energy to carry that weight. Each conversation feels like emotional work they are not capable of doing. Even small talk becomes too much. The INFJ cannot force themselves to act interested or present. Their mind cannot handle more input, so they shut down the desire to engage. People may notice the INFJ becoming quieter than usual, offering shorter answers, or avoiding conversations completely. They step back from group settings because the noise feels overwhelming. This loss of interest also extends to messages, calls, and digital communication. The INFJ may ignore texts without meaning to. They may open messages and close them again because they do not have the energy to reply. They may avoid answering the phone because even a few minutes of conversation feels like it will drain what little energy they have left. Even interactions with people they love become difficult. The INFJ is not shutting them out intentionally. They simply cannot participate emotionally. They need silence, space, and time to breathe without the pressure of responding or managing emotions. If someone tries to push them to talk, it often makes the shutdown worse. The INFJ may also lose interest in social media, entertainment, or anything that requires absorbing emotional content. Music, movies, or stories that usually inspire them now feel overwhelming. Their mind wants calmness, not more stimulation. This shift can confuse the people around them. They may think the INFJ is upset or angry. They may take the silence personally. But the truth is simple: the INFJ is conserving energy. The mind has shut down parts of emotional processing, and conversations require energy they do not have. Once the INFJ begins to reset, their interest in communication slowly returns. They start responding again. They begin to enjoy conversation. They feel ready to connect emotionally. But during shutdown, silence becomes their temporary shelter from the weight of the outside world. Thing number 5. Their intuition stops giving them signals. One of the most unsettling parts of an INFJ shutdown is the loss of intuition. For INFJs, intuition is not a small part of who they are. It is their primary way of understanding people, making decisions, and navigating life. Their intuition usually gives them clear signals about what feels right, what feels wrong, and what direction they should move toward. When the mind shuts down, this guidance disappears. The loss of intuition feels like losing an internal compass. The INFJ depends on intuitive insight to make sense of their experiences. They use it to read emotions, understand situations, and anticipate problems before they happen. When intuition goes quiet, they feel disconnected from themselves. They cannot sense what someone is feeling. They cannot sense what will happen next. They cannot sense the truth beneath the surface. This creates a strange kind of confusion. The INFJ begins to doubt their own thoughts and choices. They may feel unsure about decisions they would normally make confidently. They may question their relationships, their goals, or their path in life. Without intuitive guidance, they feel lost in a way that is deeply uncomfortable. This loss also affects their emotional balance. Normally, intuition helps the INFJ understand their own feelings. It helps them process emotions in a meaningful way. When intuition shuts down, they cannot interpret their emotions clearly. This adds to the numbness, confusion, and sense of internal fog they experience. During this phase, the INFJ may stop trying to make decisions completely. They may avoid commitments, plans, or important choices because they do not trust their thinking. They feel stuck, waiting for their inner voice to return. This stillness is part of the reset process. The mind shuts off certain abilities so it can recover without extra pressure. The silence of intuition can also make the INFJ feel disconnected from their purpose. They normally feel guided toward meaningful work, meaningful relationships, and meaningful choices. When that guidance disappears, they may temporarily feel directionless. This does not mean they have lost their path. It means their mind is repairing itself so that intuition can come back stronger. The good news is that intuition always returns. Once the INFJ has had enough rest and emotional space, their inner voice becomes clear again. Ideas flow. Insights return. Patterns become visible again. The INFJ recognizes themselves. But during shutdown, the loss of intuition is one of the strongest signs that their mind has reached its limit. Thing number 6. They begin a slow reset process. After the INFJ mind has shut down completely, a slow reset begins. This reset does not happen all at once. It does not arrive with a sudden burst of energy or clarity. Instead, it happens in small steps. The INFJ gradually begins to breathe again, think again, and feel again. Their inner world starts waking up piece by piece. The first sign of this reset is a small return of emotional awareness. The numbness begins to fade. Feelings that were muted start becoming clearer. The INFJ may notice moments of calm, or small sparks of insight, or a gentle awareness of their own thoughts. These moments are subtle, but they show that their mind is beginning to recover. Next, their need for silence becomes less intense. They still prefer quiet, but the overwhelming need to disconnect starts to soften. They may feel ready to have small conversations again, or respond to messages without feeling drained. They may reach out to someone they trust, not to talk about everything at once, but simply to reconnect gently. As the reset continues, the INFJ begins to regain their clarity. Thoughts start flowing again. Their intuition slowly returns. Instead of feeling foggy or blocked, they begin to sense patterns and insights the way they normally do. Their inner voice becomes clearer with each step, guiding them back to their natural balance. They may feel a sense of relief as this happens, because the loss of intuitive guidance is one of the hardest parts of shutdown. Energy also returns in small amounts. The INFJ may begin to feel motivated to handle simple tasks, plan their day, or return to hobbies they paused. They may feel more centered emotionally and less overwhelmed. The pressure that once pushed their mind into shutdown slowly lifts, allowing them to reconnect with life at a steady pace. This reset process also brings reflection. As the INFJ begins to feel like themselves again, they look back at what caused the overload. They think about the emotional weight they were carrying, the situations that drained them, and the boundaries they may have ignored. This reflection is not harsh. It is quiet and honest. It helps them understand what they need going forward so they can avoid the next shutdown. The reset also teaches them which relationships and environments are safe and which are too demanding. The INFJ becomes more aware of what supports their emotional health and what disrupts it. This awareness helps them make better choices, set clearer boundaries, and protect their energy more effectively. By the time the reset is complete, the INFJ feels steady again. Their thoughts are clear, their emotions are accessible, and their intuition is active. They return to their normal depth, insight, and sensitivity. This renewal does not erase what they went through, but it strengthens them. Each reset helps them understand themselves more deeply and reinforces the importance of caring for their mind and inner world. When an INFJ mind shuts down, it is not an ending. It is a protective pause that helps them avoid emotional overwhelm. The shutdown may look quiet on the outside, but inside, it is a response to pressure, tension, and deep exhaustion. With time, silence, and space, the INFJ recovers and returns to their natural clarity. These moments are part of their emotional survival, not a sign of weakness. If you are an INFJ, allow yourself the space to reset when your mind becomes too heavy. If you care about an INFJ, understand that their silence is not distance from you. It is a step toward protecting their inner balance. When they return, they come back clearer, calmer, and stronger.